All right, Brandon, we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Meet the Staff Monday. And today I am joined by a good friend and a long-term staffer here with Pure Bowling in Brandon Hinderer. Brandon, how we doing this afternoon, bro?
I'm doing okay. I just want to say, first off, thanks again for having me on staff for 5+ years. It's been a pleasure working with you, coaching, ball drilling. I mean, it's definitely helped out my game for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Looks like you're at home right now, but I'm assuming you probably just got it home for the day. Or are you working remote today?
I've been working remote. I've been in the IT business for over 20 years. I work at a local college, and luckily we are able to work remotely, so that helps me out. And it's definitely a nice feature to have. Go in whenever there's an issue, but definitely is nice working from home.
Yeah, it can't be too bad. It gives you a nice big office of your own and a nice padded seat. You can sit there on the couch and try to get work done. But I know it's a challenge for some individuals. But in the IT world, I'm sure it's pretty easy to stay on task, especially when you're supporting a university as you do in your line in your profession there. So. But anyway, we brought you on here tonight, Brandon, because we thought, these segments are really good to kind of get to know some staff of either Purett Bowling or some of the brands of Brunswick a little more personally, to put a name to a face and generally, just talk about bowling in general a little bit. But you already mentioned some of it. So Brandon has been with Purett Bowling now. I'd say it's 5 or 6 years. He was literally one of the first individuals to ever take what we refer to as a staff contract with Purett. As Brandon and I met years ago bowling out on the regional tour. So, Brandon, tell us a little bit about your background as in terms of bowling, kind of where you are right now. Maybe some aspirations you have moving forward.
Yeah, I started when I was about 7 years old. Both my dad, my grandfather, my uncles bowled together on the team. So sort of took it up as when I was younger. Really enjoyed the sport when I was a kid. It definitely helped out with just getting an activity in and doing some stuff. I also played baseball when I was a kid. So probably stayed active as much as I could. My grandfather, my father, they were just local house bowlers. They bowled in a league together, so it's not like any tournaments. But I, about 10 years ago, took the trip to become a professional. I joined the PBA, went out my rookie year. I bowled a non-champion event, led the event up in Williamsport, and ended up finishing third, fourth. I lost in the semifinal round and I actually hurt my arm and had to have surgery later that year. So my first year being a member, it was like, oh, wow, they're going to have a medical exemption, delay my rookie of the year status. But PBA doesn't do that for some reason. Most other sports do. So my rookie of the year, I had one event, and that was it. So
I mean, a third, fourth finish in the one event was great, but yeah, obviously you don't want to see a shortened season with an injury, and we both know all too well it's not hard to get hurt in our profession either. A lot of moving parts to the game, not just the arms, but obviously the legs, the core, all types of injuries can happen pretty easily in our game. And, it's a tough one that you have tough pill to swallow, but, you had that, success early on. And I know you competed out in the regional tour for how many additional years?
It was about 6 total, 7 maybe overall. A couple years ago, I decided, at the point in my life, I wanted to take a little break. It's no fault of the PBA tour, but, just bowling alleys, sponsorship, and lack of tournaments is one reason why I decided not to become a member at the time. I was just going through some changes, trying to get some things worked out financially. And, it is a great event that they have regional tours. The problem is sponsorship and the local bowling alleys themselves, and also now Bolero has taken over a lot of the not industrial, but a lot of the corporate places. So it's kind of hard to get an event the way the PBA has their structure right now. But I decided to take a little break. I still bowl local tournaments. I've been to nationals for 12 straight years, except for this year because of the COVID. But I still do a lot of the local tournaments, and maybe someday I'll think about going back to the PBA tour, regional tour, not the national tour, since I have a regular job. I would rather
just get in the way a little bit.
Yeah, I like that financial stability of having an income. It's very hard right now in any industry, professional, to make a good living, so to say.
Yeah, it's tough. And, it's kind of interesting that you said that, because, there is what feels like a transition right now when we look at the, professional standpoint of our game. And, with Boleros stepping in and essentially buying now the PBA and taking some strides to kind of change up the product, in my eyes and what I'm seeing now is I'm actually seeing, some positive changes that I think are probably coming in terms of the PBA that might make it a little more beneficial for, individuals who are excelling at this game to sustain more of a livelihood, if you will. There's been a little bit of an uproar lately. I know you don't bowl in the regional level lately, but, the entry fees have gone up a little bit. But they are making some small changes to the caching structure, especially for individuals who make the cut to make it a little more worthwhile. But I think it's going to take a massive overhaul to really save the regional program. The national tour is striving right now. It's growing. It's great to see all these deals with Fox and seeing bowling in the forefront and definitely bowling for higher purses. I mean, what is the PBA playoffs that are just started up in prime time this past Saturday? Ratings were pretty good, even up against, college football. And that purse there, I think, is paying out $100,000 for first and $50,000 for second. So some money for these individuals to bowl for is reassuring, because you and I both know from bowling regionals over the years and being, pretty good players in our own right that, it's hard to make money at the top level. And that's why so many individuals tend to do it for a little bit and then kind of have to step back from it and understand that, you have to have a career and a longevity that's going to be sustainable. So, if you're going to make it in this sport, you got to be the cream of the crop. So, it's an interesting one, but we definitely miss having you out there, Brandon. I mean, obviously, for those of you who know, I mean, Brandon and I have known each other for years. We traveled together out in the regional tour. He had to put up with me in his room. So, sharing a room with me isn't always easy, especially those years I was trying to juggle college and working and bowling all at the same time. But, when it came to certain tests when we were on the road, Brandon always seemed to have the answer. So is that bad? Did I just admit to cheating? I might have, but it's okay. It was all in.
I know what you mean. It's been. I was looking back, just at old pictures the other day and other stuff, and I remember the drill press you had in a friend's basement. And that's where you had your business out of at one point. That was like 10 years ago. It's amazing that you got in Cedar Lanes and now your own shop and place. I mean, it's definitely, a change, but a good change, and definitely something I know you've worked towards. And, any way that, especially me and any other staff members, will help out. And I know we've helped out with the facility. That's one thing, that's been a good change, because I never really did construction stuff, but to put our blood, sweat, everything into that place to make it what it is. I know you're proud of it.
And swear words. So lots of those flying around when you're doing a construction and you're not 100% sure what you're doing. And, but we make it work. I mean, it's, obviously from my end as well, it's, much appreciated, for those of you that are following along out there and, watch our programs and you see some of the staff that is on here. I'm not saying other, shops or something would sell out or anything along those lines. But the one thing I do pride myself on is that I do have a very small staff that represents our brand. And I know each and every one of these individuals personally. It's more of a small family than it is me trying to take a brand and kind of just, blow it up into into something that's just all about profit and not about personalization. So, we all get together a lot. Everybody's kind of intertwined in all the happenings that happen at Pure Bowling. And that's why, I think it's so important that, they come on this program with me and they talk, and you guys get to have a name and a face to these individuals because they're part of it. This isn't just, my brand. This is the brand of all of us working together and all of us making it into, how we feel bowling should be, conducted, supporting one another and trying to spread that message out to the consumers and, other competitors that are on the lane. So it's, again, I just put up pictures the other day. We renovated the place, opened the lane portion of it up in January, and here it is, after COVID hit, and I have the place tore up again on one half of it because we're doing the next step on renovation. So it's it's pretty awesome to see the transitions that we're doing. Great transformation.
Yeah, and like for me too, as a player, I do most of my own layouts. I have a certain way that I like to see ball motion and the way the balls roll, and I pick a ball. And like you said before, in many other streams, the manufacturer makes a ball for a specific purpose. So I try to exemplify or use that ball for a specific purpose. So I'm not, taking a solid ball and drilling it to make it go 400 feet and hook a little bit at the end. You got to use your tools wisely. And yep. I know we work together a lot when laying out stuff, but most of the stuff I pick a layout for what the purpose I want the ball to do.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, speaking of that, Brandon, I mean, I know at this point right now, you're technically independent. I know what is some of the favorite stuff in your bag right now? What are you throwing in leagues? What are you liking? Is there anything you're looking forward to as well? Some maybe new releases that are coming out.
Well, for me, I bowl Monday in an early league and then Thursday in a late league, which is second shift. So usually the early league, it's pretty similar every week. Lately, my go-to ball has been the DV8 Turmoil 2 Solid. That ball just rolls so good. It's got a higher G. So for me, it allows me to get down the lane a little further and not start up so early. Another ball I really, really like is the GB3 Black-Blue Hybrid. I really like that ball. The Zing Hybrid has been another one lately that I've been using a lot, especially in the late league. So it gets through the front part of the lane and doesn't hook early. It allows me, especially in the second shift league, to get left, get some fresh oil, have that bigger core to allow it to roll better. So,
all right. And, it matches up a little better with, I would say, Brandon, you're pretty matched in terms of rev rate and speed. If anything, Brandon throws it pretty firm, but higher rev rate, a lot of axis rotation down lane. So, it makes sense that Brandon kind of tends to kind of migrate towards those smoother covers, that a little more energy retention. And, growing up in an era like myself, and Brandon and I are about a year apart in age, we grew up in the days of, wood lanes and really playing more, down lane motion when we were younger, because that's just how bowling was. So it doesn't surprise me that aesthetically, that's where you like to see your bowling ball shape as much. And, we just tend to do what the lane dictates and what it wants us to do. So, don't fight it. What you do when you're attacking layouts or ball choices and things along those lines, like Brandon's saying, is, find out what that manufacturer intended, the intention was for the ball, and then, utilize, whether you're working with me as your pro shop operator or someone else to, make that layout match what the ball's intended for. Right. The latest and greatest ball from any offering in any brand doesn't mean it's going to be applicable or what you need in your bag. Right. That's where the conversations need to, come with myself or, somebody like Brandon who's on staff, that you can approach them and ask some questions, because he's more than capable of helping you out and directing you into, something that's going to work for you. Because that's important, Brandon. So it's a very good point you brought up.
Yeah, and another thing too for me, I really, really, really like hybrid covers because my speed and rev rate is matched so good. I'm probably, on the machine speed wise, I'm about 16 and a half, 17 down lane, and probably 5 to 550 revolution. I can change a little bit and need to crank it up if I need to. But
Mm-hmm.
mostly I like solid cover balls with about 3,000 surface, and hybrid covers I really, really like the GB3 hybrid. That ball is awesome. I love the original GB3. I'm looking forward to the Web Tour hybrid. I mean, and the Omni hybrid possibly too. The, just the, what was the, I have the Redemption hybrid, sorry, the Redemption Pearl.
Pearl, yeah.
But the Pearl is really not a Pearl. It's kind of more like a hybrid. It doesn't have that flippy action on the back end, which I don't really need because I have enough rev rate to get through that and, have enough ball motion itself. I don't really need pearls to snap hard, especially in league or even tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and then, as you know, I bowl league tonight. I bowl league in a high friction building, and every single one of us, all our rev rates on our team are different. You got Kerry, who's more up the lane, Kevin, who's kind of more forward up the lane. He can open it up a little bit. Dom is spinny, and then, I would say that, my game is closer to yours where speed and rev rate is matched and on the higher side. But you'll see us all migrate towards hybrid cover stocks because we're really trying to blend that wet dry out. And, I have good intentions. I love throwing other bowling balls. We have so many good ones in the line, but, when you're averaging, 230 plus, why reinvent the wheel? I mean, I know what looks good. So usually practice consists of about 4 or 5, maybe 6 shots with another ball. And then it's okay. Well, they're the one I'm going to actually throw, but, again, it makes sense, based off of what you're going on. Even for the wet dry and a lower rev rate, Carrie's using hybrids a lot. She uses a Redemption hybrid a lot there. So she's using asymmetry, using a, bigger core to help out in different ways. But again, with a low tilt player like her, we want to make sure that we have max energy retention. And that really does smooth out what I refer to as the dirt, which is where she's throwing it out there. And, it makes it more user-friendly.
Yeah, and like you said, with especially league, people like to see that big hook and the back end. And for me, I don't like that. You get in that area where it just does that. You ring 10, ring 10, ring 10. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it's hooking a lot. That's what I want to see. But, most people don't understand, like you said, ball motion front to back more than side to side because you need to get the ball to hook in the right spot to get through the pins right. It's crazy how, like, most people come in and say, well, I want the biggest hooking ball. Well, you can maybe drill the biggest hooking ball, but it depending on, and I know we've talked to other people and other times, where it hooks. That's where the key is, where you want it to hook. So I do know a lot about the balls, like the technical specifications. And, some people's games, I'm not a pro shop operator. I never went through the training, but like Jeff said, I do know a lot of the technology and also the equipment in the brands of Brunswick. I am an independent. I was on Brunswick staff for 6 years. I decided, at the time before they made the acquisition of the Ebonite brands, I have been using Ebonite a lot. I do have some other companies, but, most of the stuff for me, the Brunswick stuff really, really helped me. I have a lot of success with them. I threw them for nothing but 20 years exclusively. Brunswick, DV8, Radical equipment when they came out. DV8 when they came out in 2011, and Radical when it was part of the joint effort as well. Everybody makes good stuff. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's different. But before I answer some questions, I may put a couple up here because there's a couple good ones that came through. One of the other things we always like to talk about too, even outside of the bowling, is as people are trying to get to know you, but maybe something people don't know is, Brandon, you're obviously a pretty avid golfer as well, and I know you played out and you're still playing out in the amateur tour for golf. But the reason I bring that up so much is a lot of times on this program we talk about similarities to sports and stuff, but I think golf and bowling is one of the most unique ones when it comes to swing playing and some of the commonalities there. So, I mean, for you, Brandon, talk a little bit about your golf and maybe what you see as commonalities and things that maybe why you're good at both of them.
Yeah, I've been golfing for probably 26 years now. Started out as a kid, took up the game. My dad played, and the same thing. He was just a casual player. 6 years ago, I decided to join what was called the Golf Channel Amateur Tour. They sponsored this amateur tour all over the United States, and I said, I'll give it a try. So the very first tournament I played, was probably shooting 90 to 95 on average. And first tournament I played, it was a Links at Gettysburg. Never played the course before.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up winning my first event. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So it's a great event. Now it's called the U.S. Am Tour. Golf Channel, with all of the COVID, decided to drop sponsorship. So the guy who owned it came up with the U.S. Am Tour, and you get to play great tournaments in your local area. So it's not just in this area; it's all over the United States. They have different sections. I play Philadelphia event and also Baltimore events, and we play some high-end courses like private country clubs, places you normally can't just go call up and say, hey, I want to play here. And it's all based on your handicap, which, just like in bowling, it is helpful to everyone. Everybody can play these events, so it's not limited to just professionals or really good golfers. So, starting out, I was probably about a 14 handicap. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I took some lessons, and just by playing more, and just like when you bowl more, you get better, you learn stuff, you decide, oh, well, I'm pushing the ball or fading it, and you learn the adjustments and what to do with that training with a professional. They review your game and can see the problems and fix it. And it's not like a total rehaul. Just like bowling and golf are similar. Professionals in both will work with your game, what you have, and help you get the best out of your physical abilities.
Right. The same thing. I mean, so many commonalities, with swing, being steep, not being steep, angles, body position, your core strength, your feet, your footwork. All that goes hand in hand between the same sports, and a ton of hand and eye coordination. So there's a lot of crossover between the two. Now, Brandon's, pretty good at both of them. I'm a pretty good bowler, and I stink at golf, but I try. But I'm like him. I went and took a couple lessons, and it got, dramatically better pretty quickly. So, the reason I bring that up is, we talk so often about, proper coaching and an advancement of, your game. It's the same thing. If you want to advance your game in the sport of bowling, you got to work at it. And you have to have a set of eyes on you that understands the principles that what needs worked on, to take yourself into the next level. And I think the good thing, and why I kind of extracted that from Brandon, was, he played the amateur events in golf. Golf and bowling are a little different. In amateur events, in any other sport, you cannot make money. You can do gift cards, things along those lines. Bowling's one of those only sports where you can make money being an amateur. But I think what I want you to extract out of that is you gotta gauge yourself to where your game is with bowling, and set yourself up for success by putting yourself in a position in like a tournament or something to kind of, get yourself ready for what the next level would be. So what I mean by that is, when Brandon was a 14 handicap, in relationship to bowling, that was probably a handicap tournament where you go in and you kind of, as you're working to have a better game. And as he got better, he took the next step up, which might have been a local scratch event, right? And he probably worked at it a little bit until he could win, there. And then he took that next step to go up to, maybe the regional tour or the golf tour where he's at, in a higher flight, which is what they refer to him there. And the reason I brought that up is, yes, Carrie's out in the other room here, but she had put one up, and, what's the best advice you can give to somebody who's looking to try out the regional tour? And that's kind of where I was going with that is, Brandon explained it and I explained it that, the regional tour is out there for individuals to try. Okay. But when you get out to the regional tour, you're looking at higher entry fees, and the purses aren't that large, and the talent in that field is really good. So my best advice for anyone out there is twofold. One, be honest with yourself. Okay. So if you are struggling to cash at local events, and or you haven't won locally at the scratch scene or along those lines, it's going to be pretty hard to put yourself in position to feel that you're ready to bowl the regional tour. Okay. And I can say this from experience myself. I bowled the regional tour like Brandon did for years, and I took some time off, a lot of injuries, things along those. And I'm slowly getting back into competition because I started seeing my game and my health improve locally before I decided it was time to kind of go up and try out the regional ranks again. Respect the talent that's out there. That's the best thing I could say to everybody, and be honest with yourself. But by all means, utilize a coach as well, because a coach and a good coach at that is the type of individual that's going to be able to help you to understand what you need to do to actually compete out there.
Yeah, my best advice would be, your very first one, it's going to be a challenge because you're going to be wondering, what do I do? The lane courtesy, the spare shooting, what pattern am I on? The PBA uses multiple different patterns, but they use the house machine. So a lot of times there's a conversion. So even though it may look a certain way online, or if you can download the file, if they have them listed, just like any place you go, it depends on the type of oil, the machine they use, and also the lane surface. All three of those go into factors that you can't just say, oh, we're playing 2000 cheetah, so I got to play 12 to the gutter and it's going to hook off the gutter.
Right.
We
saw that last. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But to reiterate what you're saying, we saw that last week when we bowled the regional, and we were bowling on a 44-foot Salvino pattern, which if you look at it on paper, nobody's going to really think that 1, 2, 3 is going to look good on it. But it was on a super high friction SPL surface, and using their machine and a new install. And, that's why we tell individuals all the time when we're talking about this is, there's a lot of pro sports teams that look good on paper, but they're not very good. Okay. Same thing. When you look at an oil pattern can be very deceiving about and give you a preconceived notion of what you have to do. Okay. And really, for any individual out there, if you want to truly learn how to attack any pattern, go to the bowling center. Okay. Get out a benchmark bowling ball. You're going to throw it down the lane in practice, and you're going to listen to what your ball tells you. Okay. Your bowling ball is going to tell you more intel than any piece of paper, any coach, even myself as a rep. You're going to learn more by watching what your bowling ball wants. Okay. That is so critical to understanding. So when I get questions on, hey, I'm going to this pattern, where should I play it? What surface prep should I have on my ball? And my answer is going to be the same every time. On paper, yeah, this is probably where the pattern's going to play, but you can't go in there with that mindset, because then you're going to be stuck. You're going to be scared to make the moves that need to happen. And the other thing with surface prep is, the only thing I would say about surface prep is if you're going to prep any bowling balls, have them way higher in terms of surface prep, because they're a lot easier to take down by hand. Okay. But again, I'm not going to go in there and make a bunch of adjustments before I'm going in there to bowling balls. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what the pair wants when I get there, and I'm going to make my adjustments from there. So easiest way I can explain it. But
yeah.
And we're getting almost up to 30 minutes here, so I don't want to cut off some of these questions. I want to make sure I get them to you too. But go ahead and finish that thought you were going to give me, and then we'll get on to the next one.
Yeah, I would just say, if you're going out as a first-time person, the PBA has a rule book. Read that, follow the rules, especially the shirts and everything. I know there's a lot of dye sublimated people that create jerseys. Make sure you're wearing the correct one, the high five, or else, you just got to mentally focus, thinking, this is bowling. I know how to do this. You can't get frustrated. You need to make your spares and just focus on your bowling. Make your ball changes and go through your progressions. And like Jeff said, you got to go out to the regional events, local events that you have available to you to get your feet wet and to make sure that you're ready for that type of, PBA, primetime, high-end, greatest players in the whole region.
Right. And on top of that, Brandon, locally to regionally, they may use the same pattern at a local event and use the same pattern at a regional event, and the way that those lanes transition are going to be completely different because you have a level where kind of you got a whole bunch of different styles, maybe not understanding how to play the patterns. So, and what I mean, I'm not down talking anybody at a local level, but that's where you're learning. You're learning where you should play and where you shouldn't play. So balls are kind of going all over the place. And then when you get out to the regional level, you get some of your more seasoned guys kind of they will attack patterns pretty similar, try to break them down in certain areas, and they transition and change so differently than anywhere else. And no different from if we're talking about the guys tour versus the girls tour, right? On the guys tour, they're gonna bust the pattern up way different than what the girls do. And the girls may end up making them easy because they like to play them a certain way, and the guys destroyed them. It's bowling. There's so many anomalies and unknowns out there. It's unbelievable. But man, is it a fun game?
Yep.
But the other thing here, Brandon, I want to make sure you answer this because I think Paul kind of put it on here. But playing golf along with bowling, it challenges your mental game. What advice would you give to a player to have a short-term memory to move on from a bad shot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where I've always heard and always tell people you can't change the past. You can't predict the future. And all you can do is make your best shot for bowling this time up. You got to focus and do what you can in the now. You can't change what happened last frame, last game. You can't predict, like you said, when you're bowling a tournament, you move pairs. You can't predict what's going to happen. You just need to think of your past experiences. And the same thing in the golf world. You hit a bad shot or you chunk a chip or whatever. It's like, for me, I'm usually not, and Parker Boone has always done this and said this the best. Keep a level head. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Because when you have those extreme changes in mood, it just messes with you mentally and you can't focus. And that's what you need for anything. Any sport, tennis, golf, bowling, baseball. The guys in baseball, they swing at a bad pitch. They don't go, oh, geez, what am I going to do now? They go up and focus. You just need to focus and have that focus. You can joke around with your friends at league or whatever, but when you step up on that lane, you need to have your complete focus, what you're doing, what shot you're going to throw, if you need to make an adjustment. And the same thing with golf. Okay, so I hooked one left. I know what I need to do the next shot and what I did, wrong. So it's just experiences and putting yourself in that to learn how you can react based on the previous shot to make your best shot next time.
Right. Absolutely. I went through it yesterday, Brandon. We bowled, we were at Chaco's yesterday, and they weren't overly hard by any means. A little hard to get the ball through the pins, and I had a pretty bad break game one where I split the 9th and 10th. Short-term memory, right? Knew I had a pretty good look. Go to the next pair. Front 3, stone 8. I mean, just gross stone 8. Spared it, 5-bagger, and then I left the weirdest swishing, like it looked like it was going to be a 5-10, and left the 5-pin. Laughing, but I bowled 250, so I'm back in contention. Go to the other pair, bowl 198 or 2-0. Good game, solid, just clean. Just never really got anything going. And then we had to make the turn. And it was 1 and 2 at Chaco's, which I know is horrible. So, I'm not going to go down there with a preconceived notion other than trying to remember what I did the last time, which is that pair always hooks. So, you have to understand. I kind of said, okay, pattern length. And I made a move to start the game, and it wasn't even close to enough. So I didn't get mad, right? You have to knuckle down. And I'm going to make a really long story short here. By the time I figured it out, I moved every frame. I was 14 left with my feet from the other end of the building. But what happened was, and trying to have that short term and let the pass go, is frame 7, I 6'10", and I took the 6 straight back off of it. And at that point, I'm like, well, I can't dwell. I know I need the rest of them to give myself a shot and regroup. You let it go, short-term memory. I packed an X5. I got off the sheet. I ended up missing the cut by 9 or 10 pins. But again, to reiterate what you're saying and go off of that is that you have to have short-term memory. You have to let it go, because I can't change the fact that, unluckily I took the 6 off of it. It doesn't happen often, but what I could control is what I'm going to do. I know I got to put my mental game in a spot to have that short-term memory, give myself a chance, because right then and there, I could have just said, well, that's it. I suck, and when I was done, I made a comment to some of my staffers in Cary, and I said, look, I didn't miss that cut because I didn't strike enough. I said, I missed that cut because I missed 2 makeable spares, and you go back and you think about the things after you're done, about the things you could have changed. Right. I didn't blame it on the stuff 8 or the, couple really obnoxious ring 7s and 10s and stuff like that. But again, short-term memory, exactly like Brandon said, you have to live in the moment that you're in. You can't dwell on it. But, all right, Brandon, what else we got here? Bowling, golf, what did you look up to when you were younger?
Yeah, I saw Kevin post that in there. They could pop it up. But bowling-wise, I've always looked up, even though I'm a right-handed player, Mike Albee, Parker Bone, they were my favorite player. Amleto Monticelli. I loved watching bowling Saturday afternoons on ABC with Nelson Burton Jr., as the commentator, and it's just, I love those every Saturday. You can watch that.
Right.
Golfing wise, probably, Tiger, of course. Greg Norman was another favorite of mine. I just like bowling. You can't really imitate people's swings. Everybody's different. Everybody moves different. Everybody has a different body type, and they can swing differently and throw the ball differently. So, you just got to adapt your game and go to a coach who's not going to totally just change your game. I've been to Mike Jasno before, just to get another set of eyes. He's worked with a lot of tour players, and he did video. And, it's just amazing when you can watch videos of different things that you do that you don't realize you're doing. And it's awesome to get that type of technology now. I'm a huge person that deals with numbers and technology since I work in the technology field for 20 years now. I'm that type of person where I look at bowling balls, I look at RG value, and also the differential to make sure I'm getting what I'm looking for. I don't need the big hooking balls, like I said before. So,
yeah, good. And then kind of last one on here, and I'll kind of hit it because Rick and kind of Fred on here said kind of the same thing, and they were talking about regionals. Fridays don't play like Saturdays. And, again, I kind of almost said that when I was talking about that local versus regional. But again, when we hit practice session on a Friday, say of a regional, and they give you an open 2-hour practice session, really the guys out there, we're using that more for getting our feet underneath us, the building. You can kind of get a feel pair to pair, some topography things that are going on out there. But, we're not really going to fall in love with the motion we're getting there, because we know the next day they're going to be played completely different, because there's a couple factors on that. During practice session, a lot of the guys aren't throwing spare balls in the middle of the lane. So you don't have plastic that's taking the oil off the front and kind of deposit down lane and things along those lines. The other thing that you don't have is you don't have a ton of surface prep going on, because we all know they're going to play a little bit different the next day. Plus, every time they put that pattern out, it's going to play, a little flatter, a little crisper. The lanes are going to get a little cleaner, especially if, it's a well-maintained machine. But you also have other anomalies. They could have put that out for practice session, and then they had league that night. They had to put their house pattern out for, and then they put it, out again after the house pattern, and it plays completely different. So there's so many anomalies. So it's a really good point, that Rick said there, and Fred chimed in there and said the same things. It's just so different, and that's why it's so important not to get too hung up on what the pattern says. And it's okay to be prepared, but don't go overboard. Get some ball motions you think would match up pretty well on patterns, but always make sure you have an array of motions. We're headed to Toledo this weekend. We're bowling on short, so a biggest mistake I could make driving 7 hours would be to say, okay, it's short, I'm only going to take weak bowling balls, or only going to take a bag of urethane and, this ball. I'm going to go there with a kitchen sink of at least motions because you don't know what you're walking into. I mean, Brandon, remember back, and I saw Joey jumped in the feed here, and he'd remember this. Remember back in the Catskills, the year Brandon used it earlier, said it was Cheetah? Well, we bowled a regional, and I would say we didn't have all the motions we needed. And they had an issue with the machine only on the right side, that the right side wasn't stripping, and something else with a clogged jet. So the right side, we came in the next day, was absolutely flooded. We could not get a ball to wrinkle with the biggest balls we had, in the bag, and the left ran us over because the left was unaffected. I don't even remember who won that year. I know Calca made a deep run, and it was, we just got ran over. But it happens. So you got to be prepared.
Yeah, I remember that because it was 3 squads, and I asked to be on C squad. So I drove up that Saturday afternoon to bowl the evening squad. And the first ball of practice, it went 60 feet, and I'm like, what happened here?
Yep.
And like I found out the machine wasn't working right, and I mean, I was throwing a fallback on a cheetah pattern.
But you have to be open-minded. We did what we had to do. So again, all good questions on there. But Brandon, we hit the 41-minute mark. Yeah. Obviously, when you and I get talking about bowling, it goes pretty quickly. But it's 5:15, and I actually have to bowl league tonight too.
Yeah,
I'm being your neck of the woods down in York. But I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and definitely want to have you on again in the future, even if it's just for a little impromptu. Just talk about bowling in general, and how we see things, and allow everyone out there to ask additional questions. So I'm glad you joined me tonight, and I'm even better for having you on staff and as a close friend of mine for all these years. And we'll definitely do this again soon.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's one of those things where I enjoy the questions. I wish more people would come and talk to me and have questions. I can answer most of the stuff, but if it's about different parts of your game, different bowling balls, it's definitely best to go see a professional to get that lined up for you. There's so many times that say, wow, that ball rolls really good for me, and this guy had it here on the pin on this and that over there. I want it drilled just like that. And it's not going to work for you because everybody throws it differently. So, I appreciate you having me on. I really enjoy these chats. I wish we could do more of this and longer too. I could be here for hours. And
me too. I can tell she's out here scarfing her dinner down, and she's probably going to be making fun of me soon because I'm going to be the one going to league hungry. But it's okay because I can. She's going to drive the night. I'll just eat in the car. But yeah, they're great, and we're definitely going to do more of these. We're going to do some. We have additional sessions even this week. I mean, tomorrow, Ryan O'Keefe's going to join me, a very close friend of mine, and Team USA coach, and then Joey, who jumped on here, and John, newest members of Radical staff. They're actually going to do the Throw It Thursday remote for us this week. They're going to actually feature the Pandemonium and the Results Solid this week, and John will be throwing his from Howell, and Joe will be in his center there at Feasterville. So give us a different way of doing it this week, and it'll be fun. But I saw one other question, Fred, to answer your question. How many did it take the PBA regional? 12 to 15. Sometimes 9. It really depends on what it is and how much I think that pattern could change. But it's some people go way more overboard in that, bud. I mean, I've seen guys pull in there with 30 plus bowling balls, and to me, that's too many options. I don't need to be fishing for that kind of shape. I mean, I feel I know my bag well enough to know what the gaps are and fill it from there. But about 12 for sure. But anyway, yep. Go ahead and finish your thought, and then we'll.
12 to 15 probably with the spare ball, definitely. You need to have a solid, a pearl eventually if you need to get far enough left and, hook the lean and get that through the front if they break down, depending on how many games. Yeah, it's definitely something, whatever you have and what you feel comfortable with and what you think the transition might be.
Right.
Yep.
All right, folks. We are going to cut it off there. Junie, thank you for having Luck at League. I think I remember Virgin Islands. coming from us there. So another one stopping in there. Always happy to see things from individuals tuning in from all over. But we enjoyed it. Hope you all did as well. Make sure you set those alarms and tune in the rest of the week with us. And stay tuned, in the next week and the weeks beyond, because we're always going to be on here talking bowling with you. Send in those questions to us. Any questions you may think of afterwards, you can reach out to myself. Feel free to look for Brandon on social media there on Facebook. You can send him messages as well. And as always, go support bowling. Definitely for me, buy brands of Brunswick balls, and come see us at Pureit. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks.